There we go.
I'd like to call to order the organizational meeting on January 5th at City Hall at 6:03 p.m. in the City Hall meeting room at City Hall on Court Square. This meeting is being recorded and videotaped by the City Council and GCTV 17. If any other person present are doing the same, you must notify the chair at this time. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chair at this time. In accordance with MGL 30A, no person shall address a meeting of a public body without permission of the chair, and all persons shall, at the request of the chair, be silent. No person shall disrupt the proceedings of a meeting of the public body with phone calls or if after clear warning from the chair, a person continues to disrupt the proceedings, the chair may order the person to withdraw from the meeting. And if the person does not withdraw, the chair may authorize a constable or other officer to remove the person from the meeting.
Did you say public potty?
I might
You may have.
I might have.
So sorry.
Portland move.
So sorry.
Because that would be good. All right.
Well, it's on.
Clerk Scott, roll call of members, please.
Councillor Golub? Here. Councillor Gwynn?
Here.
Councillor Disorder?
Here.
Councillor Bottomley?
Here.
Councillor Bullock?
Here.
Councillor Gilmore?
Here.
Councillor Lapinski?
Here.
Councillor Mayo?
Here.
Councillor Healy?
Here.
Councillor Elmer?
Here.
Councillor Forgy?
Here.
Councillor Ricketts?
Present.
Councillor Toronto?
Here.
Sir Vice President, you have a quorum. I don't know what to call you.
The Vice President's fine.
Nobody's anything.
All right. President Gilmore, would you read that motion?
Yes. City Council move that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council waive the rules of procedure and order and disposition of business to allow the agenda items to be taken out of order. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. It's so we can proceed with a short form meeting. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none. Elections of council officers. We have two offices to elect this evening, as we're no longer electing a treasurer as our new policy and how that's done. And so the first order of business is nomination of council president. I'd like to open the floor. Councilor DeSorder.
I nominate Dan Gwynn for president.
I'll second that.
The motion's been made and seconded. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, I'll close the nomination at this moment. Candidate statement. I look forward to the opportunity to work with everybody. I think over the last year, I've tried to be a good leader and keep us on track and cross lines and make sure that I'm more concerned about this council and the city of Greenfield than anything else. And I think we've all worked really well together. I think in a lot of ways in this year, people expected that we weren't going to get along as well as this group did. And I look forward to leading if that's your choice. So thank you. Any other nominations?
So do you accept the nomination?
I will accept. It's hard to talk to myself sometimes, but
I'm sure you can do
and
it.
other times I do very well because there's no one else to talk to. God knows I have to talk to somebody.
I don't have another nomination, but am I allowed to say anything in this matter?
Not usually, but
We don't have any discussion?
no, not usually. It's
We
usually
stopped it with this council.
It's-
We did before. We always did before. We haven't done it with this.
so it's usually just candidate statement and then the vote. Seeing no other nominations, I do accept the nomination. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none. Clerk Scott?
President Gwynn?
Thank you. Let me just take 1 minute to say a couple of things before we move on to the next nomination. I'd just like to thank President Gilmore for all of her work in the past year as our president, and we got along really, really well. And I think that was a sign that, when people said, the two of you are going to work together, and I said, yeah, we are, and it worked. And I thank everybody, and she was great to work with. So I appreciate that. So I'm going to open the nomination for council vice president. Councilor Mayo.
I'd like to nominate Councilor Gilmore.
I have a nomination for Councilor Gilmore. Is there a second on that?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Ricketts.
I nominate Councilor Forgy. Second.
I have a nomination for Councilor Forgy, and it's been seconded. Are there any other nominations for vice president? Seeing none, I'll do candidate statements. I'll go in order of the nominations. So Councilor Gilmore, first, would you like to accept the nomination?
I'll accept, yes.
Okay, and would you like to make a statement?
Yes. So over the last year, I got to be council president, and I appreciated the opportunity and the experience. I enjoyed serving with Councilor Gwynn also, and wanted to thank him for serving with me and filling in when I wasn't able to. This year, I do have to take a little bit of a step back because you've got a few irons in the fire, but I did still want to provide some continuity and leadership. And I would be happy to serve as vice president.
Thank you. Councilor Forgy?
I accept the
Yes.
nomination. Thank you. I will announce right at this moment that this will be my last year serving on the council for a number of different reasons. But I'd like to end my council career in a leadership position on this council. As many of you know, I have a lot of experience in leadership. And I feel very strongly that I can do an excellent job. I'm available all hours. So I really do not have any other commitments that would prohibit me from attending meetings or being available to other people just a phone call away. I ask for your consideration. I have worked with Dan Gwynn in the past. I know he and I can get along very well. I have a very active knowledge of government and how it works. And I'd like the opportunity to serve all of you in putting myself forward. I hope that that is something that you will see your way clear to. I ask for your vote. Thank you very much for your consideration at this time.
Thank you, Councilor Forgy. So we've heard from both of those candidates. I'll ask one more time. Is there any other nominations for council vice president? Seeing none, we will take a vote. How do we want to address taking a vote?
Would you like roll call? Or would you like, so usually the first nomination goes first. And if there is a majority obtained, then this second nomination does not get voted on because you've already achieved a majority for the first.
Okay.
That's not how we did it last year.
Jasper,
Okay.
can you remind us how we did it last year?
I don't know the correct procedure, but I do know that the way that we did it last year was that we did a roll call vote, and when it came to be your turn, you spoke the name of the counselor you wished to vote for. I have no idea if that's correct. I just know that's what we did.
I think that's what I remember too.
Okay.
I don't know that that's correct. Do you think that's?
I have no problem with that.
Again, if that's what the council is,
I think we could do a roll call vote with the counselor.
Gilmore or Forgy.
Gilmore or Forgy as your vote. And then I will vote last.
okay, yeah.
Looking at where we are with numbers.
So I don't think there's anything in Robert's rules. Thank you for bringing that up. I completely forgot. Every year it's a little bit like, how do we want to do this? I think it's an excellent way by having everyone say, and I think that's a clear way And then.
As long as there are only two.
Yeah.
Well,
If there were several
somebody has to get a majority.
Right.
So,
Majority, yeah. And the majority would just be smaller if there was 6 of you.
right.
Not running for speaker of the house.
Yeah, we got to do a better job on that, yeah.
Penny and I talked about that earlier. We're going to not take 7 votes to do this.
Right.
So we're,
It literally takes 7 votes, Dan.
All right,
all right.
ready?
Yes.
President Gwynn?
Yes.
Sorry, it's going to take me a while.
That's okay.
So just to be clear, you're either saying Gilmore or 4G when your name is called.
Right.
Okay. Counselor Golub,
Gilmore.
Counselor Disorder,
Gilmore.
Counselor Bottomley,
Gilmore?
Counselor Bullock,
4G.
Counselor Gilmore,
Gilmore.
Counselor Lapiansky,
4G.
Counselor Mayo,
Gilmore.
Counselor Healy,
4G.
Counselor Elmer,
4G.
Counselor Forgy,
4G.
Counselor Ricketts,
4G.
Counselor Toronzo,
4G.
Counselor Gwynn,
What's our vote?
Gilmore. Gilmore has 1, 2, 3. So 4G, Gilmore. 4G, Gilmore. Currently, Counselor Gilmore has 5 and Counselor Forgy has 7. Does the president wish to vote?
No.
I'm actually not sure that privilege applies to that vote, but
No, that's how the lead
Okay.
has to be.
So Vice President Forgy receives 7 votes.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you, everybody.
And thank you for stepping up again, Sheila. Yeah.
Yes, I do want to say thank you very much for everything you've done, both as vice president and president of the council.
Yes, and I would also like to thank you because over the last year, as much as I've relied on Vice President and President Gwynn, I've always been able to call you. Even when we disagree on politics, I know I've always been able to get advice from you and perspective, and that's been really valuable.
And please do that, and I'll call you.
Oh, I will. Now you have to pick up my call.
See how much control I have over my cell phone, right?
May I say?
Yeah, of course.
Before you leave today, Jasper, I need you to fill that out so I can give you. Thank you, that's all.
Yeah, right now.
Is there any old business that we need to discuss this evening? New business? Orientation?
I haven't talked to the finance director about any sort of an orientation. So is it okay with the council if we discuss it next week and then come up with a date or 2 that are good?
Yes.
And put them out to the majority of the council so that we can get a meeting going. And if there's anything specific that you want discussed, any specific financial process or matter, or anything specific to the council, if you could email both of us, including Tammy, because we all know Tammy's the one. So, let us know, because I've never done a council training before. So I would love to have your input.
Okay, I really do like them and I usually go all the time. So I think having the financial input about the schools is really good too. So I think that'll help us. And it will be coming up at budget time and Ways and Means. We'll be dealing with it anyway, but that's good information because I think people don't really understand how that works and how school choice dollars really matter and all that. Thank you. I would like to learn that more or have everybody learn that.
I have the question run by is why are we considering this when it's a non-election year? You know what I mean? It's not like we have new counselors, but I think this orientation does a lot for everybody just to, like Councilor Ricketts just said, there are pieces of this that I'm not sure that some of us ever understand, but there are pieces of it that you find out. School choice is probably a great example that Penny just said. How school choice dollars affect us or don't affect us. And that's important. So I have no problem with that getting moved to whenever you feel fit and when everyone's available.
Perfect.
And maybe how does everyone feel about it being an online, a virtual? Again, I'm just asking the questions.
Fine with you also?
We do.
That's fine. It is really dry, so at least you can yawn like this for a moment, but no.
Yeah.
It's important, but it's a lot to take in, so on Zoom is good.
And also, like we said, questions ahead of time are great.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Anytime in the future we can ask things ahead of time, we can move our meetings along both in committees and in full council a lot quicker if we're not caught off guard with a question that could be answered even before the meeting, which would be wonderful.
Yeah, I would like that to be kind of standard from here on in, like when the mayor comes before us and everybody goes full board at her. I think it's good and it's important because it's televised, but I'd rather us work together and send those emails, so.
No, I agree. I had that conversation with Chief of Staff Letourneau earlier about, thoughts on streamlining some of the pieces that take a lot to cover without not covering them. But I think there's ways we can cover them differently.
Yes.
And Councilor Toronto, did you have something?
I did. So I know that we had, voted on having this orientational kind of thing with the finance director. Is there other parties that are going to be there as well? I didn't know if this would be something that either Chief of Staff Letourneau or the mayor would be attending. And the reason I say that is I don't know how far the purview goes on this orientation as to whether this could preempt some of the questions that would come out before budget season, kind of in tandem at the same time on
Expectations?
Yeah, we've put them out kind of throughout the year in hopes that like this year's budget book would include a little bit more specifics on certain topics. Since you guys brought up the schools, but we've talked about salary ranges or where the salaries are going, like how many part-time, full-time people are in each department, to kind of give more of a breakdown. So I didn't know if that would have something to do with this kind of orientation, if it's a Q&A in that way, or if it's just a Q&A on the way the world works in municipal finance, or if it's an opportunity for us to also, like I said, preempt the budget season to get those last minute things in before the book. I don't know if the book's already.
Just off the cuff, this orientation is kind of like a work in process. You know what I mean? We haven't had an orientation in 3 years, and it was never a true format to it. So I think anything that is suggested, we could make that work. If Chief of Staff Letourneau can be the finance director, go ahead. No.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm Diana Schiller. I think I've met most of you now. I'm your new finance director. So thank you. So yeah, I think there's a couple things. Obviously, an orientation that can have just some, basic information. I don't know, to what level your understanding of municipal government is. It's probably at different levels. But I think also we could do, just some type of pre-budget meeting as well, like sort of the state of our financial affairs as we head into the budget season. There's been a lot going on, and certainly, I've heard not from you directly, but peripherally, a lot of different questions about, what is going on with the school and, all those things. So we're kind of gathering all of that information right now. We're just at the real beginning. We're just really doing capital at this point, haven't really delved into the budget, but certainly like just some basic lay of the land, where we're at this time. I think we could give some context to that.
I think, thinking just along that line, I don't know if that would be, I think that could be in addition to the orientation.
Yes,
through Ways and Means. I mean, and if, coordinated through Ways and Means, but for full council, I think that could be a really good help, because there are times we seem like we start it from different points.
Right.
If we had Chief of Staff Letourneau.
I was going to say, I will probably come to that because I'm a big nerd. We used to do these orientations annually with Lane and whoever, and other people. I think Liz did a couple. And you it was for new counselors, but returning counselors often came again because it was really helpful. We haven't been able to have one because of COVID since a handful of you guys were elected. So this is kind of like we're backing up to probably 3 years worth of work. So I probably will come and can answer questions from the executive side per how it pertains to budget stuff and how that stuff works. As far as the budget book goes, just to answer your question, we haven't started it yet. I usually give the template of what I want from department heads for their section this month and make them get it back to me in February. I have already added the breakdown of full-time equivalent that Councilor DeSorder asked me for. So we're just people. So just if you have any specific things you would like to see included that hasn't been included and you don't want to wait for this meeting to get scheduled, you can just send me an email. And if it seems
The sooner the better.
easy to grab.
Before the book goes to.
Before the book goes to publish, we work on it throughout February and March roughly, and it goes to print before April 1st.
Councilor Mayo, go ahead.
Print meaning.
I'm sorry.
It becomes a PDF too.
Councilor Mayo?
I agree wholeheartedly with your idea of sending questions in prior, if you know what the questions are. Sure. Many times there are questions that come up during the course of the meeting that you had nothing aware of. So while we're trying to streamline things, there's also the possibility that a question may come up as a result of the mayor saying something to us and that we should, that we want more fleshed out. So as much as we possibly can, I agree wholeheartedly, but there's always the possibility of a question coming up from what somebody has said.
Well, Councilor Mayo, I think the thing is, unless she was going to send us a script ahead of time, or whoever the mayor may be, we have no idea what they're going to say. But I'm more directing it at when you know you're going to ask a question that's not, you already know before you get there what you're going to ask. Not those, obviously, if the mayor says, we've sold Wilson's, we're going to say, well, tell us about this, and we'll ask questions. But if you already know you're going to question the fire station or something, then we could get that ahead of time.
Particularly if it's about numbers or very specific things like that, no person can hold that kind of information at all times.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you'll see me scribbling down next to her because I'm like, I know we have that, I just don't have it in front of me. Even if you tell us in advance.
And sometimes it's the art of politics and you're going to throw something out there that catches them and that's what you intended to do.
Sure.
That's just what
It's not.
but if we could, when it's numbers, if you're really working on a project, there's some of you that like to crunch numbers and like to have information. And if we can get that ahead, it would just get things going. But you are right. There's always going to be that question, Doug, where you say, you know, and this group has no problem asking questions. So
yes.
There's nothing wrong with that. Councilor Rickens?
Okay, I guess the only other thing that I would like added, I'll say clerk's office and you, because you guys are here, is teaching debt. So we understand when something's paid off, because people don't always understand that, you know, like the police station, you know, we didn't have to pay on that anymore. So our different buildings and all of that, I think that's important for people. I don't think people understand debt.
Okay, excellent.
Yes. So different.
So thank you so much.
I remember a
That's it.
training that I went to that talked about, you know, what the state's expectation of a town was.
Yep.
That they want to see growth. And so they don't want you to not spend any money.
Right.
They want to see a forward motion and whatever you choose, whether it's housing or you know, parks or things of that nature, that you use the money that you get from the state and that, you know, spending, you know, 7 to 8% is not unusual. Going up to 10 and over, that's out of the question.
It's good for the bottom rate.
But they want to see spending and they want to see it at a pretty equal level.
Thank you. Yep.
Councilor Lapinski.
I just want to ask, why are we having this discussion tonight?
Because it was good conversation to form our year. I think that's where it came out of, and to give it structure to the orientation. I think people were unsure of the orientation, and this kind of gives an idea. I will just put one piece of a warning on the orientation. Originally, the orientation was used for general information, not necessarily specific dollars. And I'll just caution that when we're asking for this orientation, it would be the theory of what debt is, or the theory of what, not where we are today. It's not the State of the Union. It's an orientation. And then if we have something following up about the budget, that would be more specific, is my only piece. Councilor Allen.
While we're throwing out ideas, I'd like a Proposition 2.5 override.
Explain, yeah.
Yeah, we better get it on the ballot or how to.
I want to know how close we are to it and when it might happen.
That's pretty.
Yeah, that's very specific. That's a good question.
That is.
Procedure of the 2.5.
Okay. No, I think I agree, because people do mention it, and it would be nice to know what would be the impact if something like that had to happen.
Right.
And that's when we get to the certain level. Where are we? That's a very specific, which wouldn't be an orientation, but maybe in this Ways and Means update by the chair. Let me make one more statement before we adjourn this meeting.
Okay.
And that is, we're going to move into chairs. I ask all the chairs to stay here after this meeting for our chairs meeting. And January is always the transition of committees. So your new committee assignments will really be February. January, the present chairs will work with the new chairs if they happen to be changing, and we put these new committees together. So don't think like when we walk out the door, well, who's A&O? Well, at the moment, A&O will still be me until we transfer that over. I've actually, I'm even gonna have Sheila run the chairs meeting tonight, because it would be kind of crazy for me to take it over because she laid it out. You know what I mean? So that's my thought. Just keep in mind that January is always the transition month. If we have new chairs, they can work with the old chair and put it together so we have some structure to move to February.
So do we still have committee meetings this month in the normal days?
We do.
Thank you.
With our existing
committees. Yeah.
If we need them.
If we need them. Yeah, I mean, we don't just have to have a meeting to have a meeting, but if there's a scheduled committee meeting like EDC or A&O or Ways and Means, they are going to happen in their present structure. But by then we should have an idea of where we're going with them. So if the new chair wants to sit in and watch the meeting or whatever, it'll all come together. But it's sometimes it's taken us longer than it should to get our new committees together, but it'll be done.
Okay. It's
all right.
More dicey with the election year.
Yeah.
Ones than
right.
Right. It's a little different now because we're not adding new bodies. We're just moving what we have around.
Perfect.
That's one more thing, Kathy, that would be useful in an orientation in general that's not like finance focused, is like what it takes to be a committee chair. Because I'm just like, no.
Time.
But maybe
don't say no too quickly.
Maybe if someone spelled it out exactly, it'd be a maybe.
That's good. No, and we can have those conversations. I'd be happy to talk to you.
Bring a paradise with you.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved. So moved. Motion been made and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, meeting's adjourned. I do ask for chairs to stay, or if you need a quick break, by all means. And anyone can stay for chairs meeting. You don't have to leave if you're here and you have nothing more exciting to do.
Students.
Let's go.
Like this.